If I had 4 years to live, I sure as hell am not going to be working in a strip club having sex with a snake.
Remember when we first met John McClane? Argyle picked him up from the plane and took him down the Nakatomi Tower at the Christmas party. And the terrorists were overzealous, but it was sweet when they killed Ellis. And with a little help from Alan, John McClane...
Welcome back to Shat The Movies, the podcast where we answer the question, were the movies we loved when growing up really that good? Have you ever caught yourself thinking, why do they make movies like they used to? Can you still remember spending your Friday night searching for the perfect movie rental at Blockbuster Video? Do you even remember what Blockbuster Video was? If you answer yes, then this is the podcast for you. I am one of your three hosts, Rutger Hauer, and alongside me are my two co-hosts, Big D, Dick Hebert.
Good evening.
And Gene Lyons.
I've seen things you people wouldn't believe.
And each week, the audience selects from 4 movie choices that we then break out our VHS tape rewinders and watch the movie that tally the highest number of votes at the end of each podcast. The three of us will provide you, the audience, with the number of each wipes each movie would need to take to get off your respective butts. So thank you so much for listening. If you haven't already, please download and subscribe via iTunes, Google Play, SoundCloud, or wherever you get your podcasts, and follow us on social media. We're on Twitter, Facebook, Snapchat, and all that jazz. But with that being said, Big D, what were the movie choices this week?
This was Harrison Ford week, and we had Blade Runner, we had Empire Strikes Back, Last Crusade from the Indiana Jones series, and The Fugitive. And I don't know if people were punking us, but Blade Runner ran away with it with 62% of the vote.
You know, when this vote first came in, I thought Blade Runner out of these is the quality movie. I voted for The Last Crusade only because it was the one I remembered the least and I was hoping to kind of have a fresh view at something. Turns out I really didn't remember how bad Blade Runner was. I thought it was a quality movie, and this is why we do the show, to rediscover how shitty things are.
I didn't kill my wife. That's the movie we're doing, right?
No, but you know, Tommy Lee Jones set an archetype in that movie. I mean, So many people imitated him after it. A lot of people imitated Blade Runner too, but I would rather watch The Fugitive 4 times over than watch Blade Runner once.
So Blade Runner is a 1982 American neo-noir science fiction film directed by Ridley Scott and stars, of course, Harrison Ford, Rutger Hauer, Sean Young, and Edward James Olmos. The film, written by Hampton Fancher and David Peoples, is an adaptation of the 1968 novel Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep by Philip K. Dick. The film depicts a dystopian Los Angeles in which genetically engineered replicants are visually indistinguishable from human results and are manufactured by the powerful Tyrell Corporation. The use of replicants on Earth is banned, and they are exclusively utilized for dangerous or menial work on off-world colonies. Replicants who defy the ban and return to Earth are hunted down and killed or retired by special police operatives known as Blade Runners. The plot focuses on a group of recently escaped replicants led by Roy Batty and the burnt-out expert Blade Runner Rick Deckard, played by Harrison Ford, who reluctantly agrees to take on one more assignment to hunt them down. During his investigation, Deckard begins a relationship with Rachel, played by Sean Young, an advanced replicant who causes him to question his and the replicants' humanity. Now, if this plot sounds exciting to you, you would be mistaken, because this movie is known for putting people to sleep. In fact, I think that's pretty much the only reason why it was the most popular rental of all time, is because Ambien hadn't hit the market yet.
Yeah, I was talking about this earlier today when a friend of mine asked what Blade Runner was about. And I found myself, when describing it, going, God, the things they could have done with this movie could have been amazing. But so much time was wasted. I found myself doing the hand gesture for get on with it at the screen while watching it.
But you have a deadly combination of this kind of soothing, ambient, like Euro synth music, and it's very dark, and it just put me to sleep multiple times. And I couldn't remember seeing this as a kid, and I should have loved this. I was roughly 10 years old at the time. If you told me science fiction movie, early 80s, we're going to be hunting down replicants in future city, it's going to be kick-ass, I'm going to love it. Now I know why 10-year-old me didn't get into it, because I was probably asleep. It took me maybe 10 viewings to watch, and even this viewing I fell asleep.
I think the reason I always thought this movie was exciting is that this was the first time I watched it from beginning to end. In the past, what would happen was you see it at industrial clubs from California to London, every club I've been in, they're playing, industrial music, Blade Runner's on the screen. And when you've got like a thumping soundtrack, it's exciting music, you've been drinking, and there's flashing lights and all this action's going on the screen, you're like, oh man, this is really cool. When you actually put in that soundtrack, the soundtrack done by Vangelis, the Greek, and then you combine that with the dialogue and just the extensive amount of time that's spent traveling from one scene to the next inexplicably, it ends up being just droning on.
Well, let me ask you guys a question. Did you feel like Blade Runner is the movie that people only have in their movie collection to impress other people? You know what I mean? Like I feel like people who claim that Blade Runner is the best movie ever probably haven't actually watched it from start to finish. They just think they should like this movie. Does that make sense? Because again, like you, I have never, except for today, watched this movie from start to finish in one sitting. And even then I had to take a break halfway through because I was so fucking bored.
I think this is very much like a micro brew. In a growler
How dare you, sir? How dare you?
Where you're like, oh my God, it's so hoppy. I just love the taste. You seem like you sound sophisticated by liking it. And it's because we remember the most visual components. It is absolutely beautifully done. It's visually stunning. For 1982, it was absolutely incredible to look at. So I think that's what's stuck in our memory. But I don't know anyone who actually, if you said, do you love it? Tell me why, that they could.
I think it's easy for us to say it's boring, but we need to be a better show than that. We need to tell people what was boring about it. So I will start with, again, we talked about the score. Vangelis, who is this Greek composer, did Chariots of Fire and some other, very famous, did the soundtrack for Cosmos, the original with Carl Sagan. He did the soundtrack for this. He does what's called, sort of electronic or synthesized symphonies, right? So again, you've got these huge epic sounds of synthesizers droning on and on and on, which is great if you're getting a massage, not really great if you're watching a movie.
Well, you say that, but yet of all the things in this movie that have been influential in current movies and television series, this soundtrack by Vangelis has been oversampled multiple times, has been replicated multiple times in such films as like Ex Machina, and in my video game The Division I was playing today. If you're down in the underground and you're doing missions, there's a synth orchestral score that's playing as you're going and you're killing, and I was like, oh my God, this is Blade Runner right here in my game The Division.
Sure, a lot of this movie is influential, visually, sound-wise, I get that, but the difference being, in The Division, you're shooting at stuff shooting at you, things are exploding. If you go to, Ex Machina, there's robot sex and all sorts of action going on. It's fine, but when you're playing that soundtrack and we're in a dark room and nobody's doing anything, or you're just watching a flying car just go across LA for 5 minutes straight, it gets to be a bit much.
How many times does Deckard visit the noodle stand? Right? Those are the exciting moments. The noodle stand where he's like, is this fish? Is this scale? Is it noodles?
Okay, but to be fair, prior to this, when we saw the future, we didn't see this future. This future is accurate in the sense that it's dark, it's LA, it's dingy, industrial. I mean, again, it's not 2019 LA, but it's going to be LA someday. And in addition to that, you've got all these cultures mishmashed in there. It's not a whitewashed view of a utopian future. I appreciate that. Still boring.
Yeah, I think what they did that was great is they actually hired industrial designers who were in the business. So they were not just designing sets and props. They were actually designing what the future environment would look like. And it was absolutely stunning. They got lucky that there was an actor's strike right at the beginning of production. So they had an extra 9 months to put this set together. Keep in mind, this is all practical. They built this on the back lots with, some matte paintings. It was real and it came across. There was no CGI. The world was beautiful. They just should have taken a little more time to focus on the plot. Because yes, it's great to look at, but the character development, they left a lot to the viewers to kind of interpret and just come up with your own ideas. I needed to know personally, why should I care about the replicants? Why are they becoming human? What have I seen that actually makes me pull for them? And they should have spent just a little bit of time working on more characters in depth than just Deckard.
Do you think that this movie suffered from Ridley Scott's attention to the design and the production value versus coaching his actors on, like you said, what is their motivation? What is this scene trying to say? Because it seemed to me that Harrison Ford just seemed bored, like completely removed from the entire movie. Like he did not want to be there. And it's been documented heavily that he and Ridley Scott hated each other throughout this entire production.
Yeah, the answer is simple. Ridley Scott didn't even read the source material. He didn't read the book.
Well, I mean, that comes across because there are 7 different versions of this movie that have been shown to audiences. Anytime there's 7 versions of anything, could you imagine if we put out 7 versions of this podcast? The Raj version, the Gene version. So the Raj version would be 2 hours. And it would be mostly tangents. The Gene version would be 15 minutes, and it would be very condensed. And the Big D would have heavy narration explaining everyone's motives, before each of us talk. Like he would give over narration of like what Raj is really saying here, or what Gene really means by that. But yeah, there's the 82 theatrical release. There's a work print release that led to the director's cut, which is closely to the international cut. Then there's the final cut, which is what I watched. Guys, which versions did you watch of this movie?
I was on a flight back from California, and so I knew I had only 2 hours, and also I was watching on my girlfriend's iPad, and to download it, she didn't have enough space left for anything longer. So I got the theatrical cut, and it was in SD to save space on the iPad. So I got the worst of all worlds.
Yeah, of the 7, I don't know which one it was. It's the one that's on iTunes. I think it is the director's cut because it was the 2 hour, 17 minutes. I had the origami unicorn. I had some of the narration. I had the happy ending. So I believe it was the director's cut. Okay.
Well, I watched the final cut, which the final cut has 0 narration. It does have the unicorn. It does have the origami at the end. I don't know if it's a happy ending. I don't know.
The happy ending is where they escape into the islands, or where they drive off in the highway
into The Shining.
Yes.
Okay, so I don't think I saw the happy ending. I just saw him look at the origami, pick it up, smile, and walk off with the replicant with Sean Young. So I don't know what ending that is.
No, that's not the happy ending.
Okay, so I watched that end. That's the final cut. Now the final cut apparently is the version that Ridley Scott had complete total directorial control over. So that is most closely to his vision. But it still didn't fucking make sense to me. It still doesn't make sense to me. I don't know why we watch this movie. I only think that it's popular because of its visual mediums and its synthesizers, because Philip K. Dick is the author. And if you were to compare this versus other movies that he's done, you can see his influence. Philip K. Dick also wrote Minority Report. Minority Report takes its visual cues heavily from this film. So does Total Recall. Total Recall is almost the same version. The Fifth Element, you could see this movie in The Fifth Element. So, I also compare the prequels, Star Wars, George Lucas. I think he heavily was influenced by this movie, especially when you see Coruscant and the flying cars. And I almost see Obi-Wan jumping down into Anakin on top of that. But anyway, with that being said, Big D, roll the trailer.
I need your deck. This is a bad one, the worst yet. There was an escape from the off-world colonies 2 weeks ago. 6 replicants, 3 male, 3 female. They slaughtered 20.
A Blade Runner's job is to hunt down replicants. Manufactured humans you can't tell from the real thing.
What's this? Roy Batty, probably the leader.
There was just one outfit making replicants that superhuman. The Tyrell Corporation.
Mr. Deckard, Dr. Eldon Tyrell.
I don't get it, Tyrell.
Commerce is our goal here at Tyrell. More human than human is our motto.
I was looking for 6 replicants in a city of 106 million people.
You ever see this girl, huh?
Never seen a buzz off.
What I didn't know was they were looking for me.
Questions. I just do eyes. Genetic design. Just eyes.
Hello?
I'm in a bar here now, down in the 4th sector. Why don't you come on down here and have a drink?
That's not my kind of place.
Time to die.
If I didn't care more than words.
It is Los Angeles, November 2019, and ex-police officer Rick Deckard is detained by Officer Gaff and brought to his former supervisor, Bryant. Deckard, whose job as a Blade Runner was to track down bioengineered beings known as replicants and retire, a euphemism for killing them, is informed that 4 replicants have come back to Earth illegally. As Tyrell Corporation Nexus 6 models, they have only a 4-year lifespan and may have to come to Earth to try to extend their lives.
So now maybe, my complaints from earlier about the style and visuals over substance is kind of being skewed because we had just done Westworld. Now, in Westworld, they do, I think, a great job of getting us to emotionally connect with the androids. We start to understand them. We start to see them. We see almost nothing of the replicants that makes them human or makes me want to pull for them. Do you feel that the replicants were sympathetic, and did you pull for them even from the beginning?
So I didn't, and they really missed an opportunity here to do that because we're never told why the replicants have combat models. If they're combat models, they must be fighting something out there, right? So they're involved in some fight on behalf of humanity, or at least on behalf of LA or America. And I think that would help us find a bit more sympathy going, what the hell are they out there fighting? So if you said to me, hey, Roy is out there and Leon are out there as combat models fighting for us, and they've only got, and even if they win, they can only live 4 years, and all they want to do is live a little bit longer. I'm pulling for them. I feel for them. I'm now torn on the two sides of this. I don't get any of that. So you tell me as a combat model, and don't tell me anything else. They totally missed an opportunity.
Well, in the version that I watched, the replicant is just sitting down automatically with a Blade Runner. Right? And now he's one of the escaped ones. Is he supposed to be on Earth already, or is he off world? Like what is happening? There's nothing to tell the audience what is fucking happening.
Okay, so in your version, it'll make it clear that's Leon.
Okay,
and it's their first attempt to actually infiltrate the Tyrell Corp. So they try to get in with one of the new class of hires. So Tyrell is fearful of that, so they start giving the test to all new hires, and that's when they catch Leon.
So it seems to me you've got Leon, you've got Roy, you've got Pris, you've got Zora. You got them all looking different. And it seems to me, rather than come up with a test to find out what the replicants look like, these are, again, remember, these are not robots. They are genetically engineered beings. They're organic, right? It seems like if you're making genetically engineered beings as combat models or pleasure models, whatever, why would you have them all look different, A? And B, I mean, in Leon's case, why would you have them not look great? It just doesn't make sense to me. It seems like a good security protocol would be like, this is this model, this is what it looks like, so that you know exactly who you're looking for.
Oh, wait a minute. So they're like Westworld robots? They're not like...
No, they're not robots at all.
They are completely 100% manufactured from biological material.
Okay.
And that's why they have a biological defect that causes them to die after 4 years.
Wouldn't robots make more sense?
I think what they established in Westworld too, though, is that a robot is much more expensive and difficult to do. If you can take human genetic material, modify it in a way that it's, essentially controllable, sort of controllable,
right?
And then make it, they're not people, so it's okay. So they have all the functions of a human. You don't have to build the computer and all that shit. You got a brain; it actually works, and that's why they're hard to tell apart. But it seems like, again, since you have control over their genetics, just make them look all alike, so you know what the hell they look like.
Yeah, they're essentially just growing them, and it would make sense that you have 5 or 6 models. Because if you're doing a military version, you would want them to have similar characteristics. They're going to be larger, they're going to be stronger, they're going to be faster. Why are you going to do an infinite amount of variables? So it wouldn't make sense. You're not going to have ugly pleasure models.
So how do the replicants know that possibly coming back to Earth would make them live longer?
Well, it's their only
hope. Is that ever
hope.
Explained?
No, they just know they have a limited time. They have 4 years. Okay. So they can either, just stay out in the stars and have fun and, be wild in the heavens, or they can come down to hell and try to figure out a way from their maker to extend their lives.
And again, this is the problem that I have with the movie. Is the movie, like you said, it doesn't explain, like you have it right there. The plight of them is that they're essentially slaves. They're coming to the realization that, holy smokes, we are living beings. We think for ourselves. I don't want to be doing this menial labor for my masters. I want to live free. And the only way I can do that is by infiltrating my maker down on this planet Earth that I've never been at, but I'm going to go down there. That's never explained in the version that I watched. Even in the title crawl in the beginning, it's not explained. I don't think it's even in narration, is it?
No, but I want to know, how do you keep them in line?
Right.
How do you keep an entire military force motivated and disciplined when they know that they have a limited time and they know they're replicants? What is their motivation, and they have free will to continue to fight on our behalf?
Okay, not to stick too long on this first part of the show, but bigger question is, why the fuck hasn't anyone just made this a TV series? Because this could go on. Like, you could start out in the outer off planet. That could be a couple seasons, and then they finally make their way to Earth, and someone's got to make this show, man.
Okay, so one of the things that they do great is they predicted, figure in 82, they hit some of the future world. They hit it right on. I mean, they got voice-controlled computers, they got video calls. Their cities look very much like, whether it's Hong Kong or some of the larger cities of Times Square with the digital billboards. But it was nice to see that they still had ceiling fans and payphones.
Yeah, that's what I love about like old school movies that are predicting the future, is that they predict like these amazing things, like you said, like the internet and video calling, but yet there's still payphones. Did no one see cellular phones coming along?
No, but I mean, think about this, though. Is the other mistake people make, though, is when they go with the future, it's all utopian, and there's not practical shit going on. Like think about 2017. We have cell phones. We have smartphones. We have, like, the entire world of knowledge in our hands. We still shit in a toilet that is essentially unchanged for the last however long years. We still drive internal combustion engines for the most part. That is some old-ass technology.
Well, I will say that the toilet pleasure heavily depends on what section of the world you're in. Like if you're in Japan, you're shitting on basically a golden throne with vents and air dryers and in heated seats and water that splashes up. And however, if you go to some third world countries, it's a hole that you go into, right? Like you squat over and you don't even sit.
What shocks a lot of people about Brazil, and my wife and I, we held our wedding there, is that in a lot of the country, the plumbing can't handle paper. So next to all toilets is a little trash can. So when you wipe your ass with the paper, you kind of ball it up and put it in the trash can. You can't flush it because most of the toilets clog.
Wait a minute. So, do you immediately take out the trash? I imagine that's like a doggy bag.
No, it is so strange because...
Wait a minute. People just leave their shit in a trash can next to the toilet until it fills up?
Yes, it sounds much nastier than it is. But
okay, that's terrible. Okay, well, we don't get to see the toilets in Blade Runner, but the one thing we do get to see is, and I'm surprised they don't have this yet, fucking light up umbrellas. How has that not been mass marketed at this point?
I want one. I thought they were cool. I figured they would have them in some of those LA clubs. We don't have flying cars. We don't have sex robots really yet. I mean, we have some fleshlights and they're coming.
That's coming. Barcelona.
But I really did like that it wasn't all lasers, that they still had regular, some modification to handguns, which I thought was good.
Yeah, that's one thing I liked about Battlestar Galactica is they still use like bullet rounds, like in the jet fighters. But one of the things that I always look at in these future type movies are like corporation advertisements, and the way they did this was beautiful. Like again, it still heavily influences sci-fi movies that we see today, with the big LED light up boards. But what's interesting is that a lot of these corporations that are featured in this movie are no longer around. And among the folklore of this movie that's developed over the years is that the belief that this film was a curse to the companies whose logos were displayed prominently as product placements in some scenes. While they were market leaders at the time, including Atari, Bell, Cuisinart, Pan Am, Koss, they all experienced setbacks after the film's release, including Coca-Cola Company, which suffered massive losses after its failed introduction of New Coke in 1985. But that was like Coca-Cola obviously soon recovered from that. But Pan Am is no longer around, obviously, in 2017. So
you also missed TDK.
That's right, TDK. Yeah, well, no one makes tapes anymore, right? Exactly. Well, Deckard watches a video of a Blade Runner named Holden administering the Voight Camp test designed to distinguish replicants from humans based on their emotional response to questions. The test subject, Leon, shoots Holden after Holden asks about Leon's mother. Bryant wants Deckard to retire Leon and the other 3 replicants, Roy Batty, Zora, and Pris. Deckard initially refuses, but after Bryant ambiguously threatens him, he reluctantly agrees.
So Deckard says something to the effect that replicants they're only machines, and machines are either a benefit or a hazard, and he only is concerned when they become a hazard. Do you think that, like today, technology has primarily been a good thing or a bad thing for human beings?
Technology, it's been wonderful.
Yeah, I would agree that although there are some certain setbacks to it, people will romanticize about times before technology. Like, look, if I could go back to the mid 90s, yeah, I would. I would. I mean, I'd give up all this stuff and go back to it, sure. But I'm not a person who's suffering from a disease. I'm not a person who's in a country that doesn't have a look at the outside world in the 90s. I'm not, there are so many advantages that have been made. I think that technology primarily has had a good effect. But at the same time, yeah, I will take my single phone line to the house and actually reading a book from the library and making mix CDs any day of the week.
Yeah, because we always look back, retrospectively at these films, and I remember at this time how technology seemed dreamy, and it seemed like our lives would be so much better. And I think that technology has also had a detriment to the way we deal with each other. And the film really goes into, stratification of people. You can see that there is the outer world, which are the elite, the wealthy. They're not stuck on Earth. They're off in space. So what's left behind on Earth is kind of the trash, the leftovers. And we can see that the book mentions that this time period is following World War III, and that whoever's left is suffering from a radioactive or poisonous dust that has mutated people.
Listen, I had no idea that World War III even existed. That part must have been completely, torn out of the final cut because
it's not in the film. It's in the book.
It's in the book. Okay, I had no idea.
But again, Ridley Scott didn't read it, so a lot of he wanted to go into it fresh. So a lot of those aren't told. It would have been nice to understand that. That would have been one of the things they could have filled this out.
Sounds more like Total Recall to me at this point.
Same author.
Deckard begins his investigation at the Tyrell Corporation to ensure that the test works on Nexus 6 models. While there, he discovers that Dr. Eldon Tyrell's assistant, Rachel, is an experimental replicant who believes herself to be human. Rachel has been given false memories to provide an emotional cushion. As a result, a more extensive test is required to determine whether or not she is a replicant.
I like that this is one thing we can credit the movie with, is that in 1982, they did something that up until rewatching it, I had attributed to kind of Westworld really exploring new territory with the idea of the backstory and the benefit of giving a being a backstory. If you create a creature that is, again, organic, that is bioengineered, and you tell them they have 4 years to live, but they look like an adult, they don't understand like where did I come from, and all the questions. They're enhanced because now you're an adult and you're like, what was my childhood? You don't have any backstory. Giving them that backstory gives them, like they said, an emotional cushion. Otherwise, what you have is a being that has the capabilities of an adult and actually enhanced capabilities, but the emotional and mental maturity of a child, and that's a very dangerous thing.
So basically what you're saying is Michael Crichton just totally ripped off Philip K. Dick. He basically was like, do androids dream of electric sheep while they're at Disneyland? That's basically what he did.
Rogism alert, listeners. Rogism alert. I basically say exactly what I mean, and all I was saying was that the backstory is clearly being used here in 1982, and we're given a reason for it. Another point that I wanted to make on the negative side is that I'm astonished at how bad the police force is, and even Deckard, who is an ace here, he's brought back from retirement because he's so good. He's not a particularly good detective. He kind of stumbles into stuff. He never calls for backup. And his photo analysis scene where he's like analyzing the photo to get more clues. Again, this movie agonizingly slow. I'm like, okay, you're analyzing the photo. Just get to the fucking part where we want to know what's going on. No, move to 16 to 13, 32. Analyze, pan right. It's pointless.
And I felt it was completely transparent. It was clear to me the second you see Rachel and the way she is presented by Tyrell that she is a replicant. So I don't know how they were trying to fool us. You could have had him build some kind of relationship with her at first, then find out she works for Tyrell, and we'd be like, oh shit, maybe she's a replicant. But right away, you spot her standing there, and you're like, oh, okay, here it is. He comes out and tests her. Gee, I'm really surprised she failed.
Yeah, after 100 questions. Usually it only takes 6, right? But events are then set into motion that pit Deckard's search for the replicants against their search for Tyrell to force him to extend their lives. Roy and Leon investigate a replicant eye manufacturing laboratory and learn of J.F. Sebastian, a gifted genetic designer who works closely with Tyrell. Rachel visits Deckard at his apartment to prove her humanity by showing him a family photo, but after Deckard reveals that her memories are implants from Tyrell's niece, she then leaves his apartment in tears. Meanwhile, Pris locates Sebastian and manipulates him to gain his trust.
So were they trying to make us dislike Deckard from the beginning? We have no reason to really pull for him, and then he turns around and he's an absolute dick to Rachel. Even if it's a machine, and he thinks it's a machine, does he need to taunt her with the spider story? Or, showing her privates as a child to her brother? There's a fine line. You don't have to love them, respect them, but he's overtly mean, and I think it makes him dislikable.
I think the point that they were trying to get at, Big D, is that he was telling her things that no one else would know, that she would never tell anyone else, right? So the spider thing, the showing of the privates, that's something that, if he said like, oh, you had... you really love ice cream. Your favorite color is blue. That's stuff that she might have told somebody, so it's not as shocking.
No, I get it. I get what he's doing and what he's saying, but it's the method in which he does it. He keeps driving it home. She's emotional. When he goes through the spider story, she gets it, and he just continues to pound away to the point that he made a replicant cry. She left his apartment distraught, and he's like, time for a drink.
Wait a minute. So again, I had no idea what was going on in this scene.
This is why I told you we should all watch the fucking theatrical.
No. This scene was in the movie, but I had no idea. All right, my question is, how is he getting the details of Tyrell's niece? The backstory. How does he have access to the fact that she showed her privates to her brother? Tyrell, did he tell that to Deckard?
I'm guessing that as a detective, he had the ability to subpoena or interview Tyrell and get that information. That's what I assumed, that he had access to her file and was able to see what memories were implanted in Rachel. That's not expressly told, but you get that impression, because how else would he know that stuff? Tyrell's given him that information. But it feels like everybody in this movie, from Tyrell to, J.F. Sebastian is supposed to be this genius, toy maker who works on the genetic engineering. He seems like a real dope. Again, the doctor that's doing the eyeballs, he seems like just kind of a weird dude. He's like in a giant, suit, like pulling eyeballs out with apparently chopsticks. I'm like, what the hell is going on here? Like, everyone who works for this company just seems completely bizarre. Even Tyrell himself, with the glasses and he's supposed to be a genius. He doesn't seem particularly smart.
So we've seen here that memories are key to keeping the replicants in line. You give them a backstory. It kind of grounds them, much like Westworld. Black and white photos, actual physical photos seem to be a calling card of replicants. there's always been this big question. Was Deckard a replicant himself? We see his apartment here, and it's not coincidental that him and Rachel are sitting down looking almost at their sets of photos together. Did you get the vibe here? What do you think? Was Deckard a replicant?
I mean, initially I thought there's no way, right? Because he's been doing this for years. He's going into retirement, all that stuff. And then you realize that you've never seen him prior to this movie. So if he has a backstory himself, that makes the way that he's treated by other cops make a lot of sense because they treat him like shit all the time.
Well, the answer to this question is that he's not a replicant, right? Because they're making Blade Runner 2049 with Harrison Ford. So he's an aged person. In fact, Harrison Ford, now there's varying degrees. Harrison Ford and the writer of this movie both agree that he is not a replicant. However, again, this shows you the type of friction that was on this production. Ridley Scott says, yes, he is a replicant. So personally, I'm going to go law of averages. 2 out of 3 say he isn't a replicant. That's where my vote's going.
You're mentioning the sequel, the
right
2049. I think that proves he is a replicant because if you notice, it seems like he's in seclusion. He's off. He's almost hidden away. And I got the vibe that, yes, he was now off and hiding, that he had come to the realization that he might actually be hunted himself.
I don't know about this. Anyway, while searching Leon's hotel room, Deckard finds a photo of Zora and a synthetic snake scale that leads him to a strip club where Zora works. Deckard kills Zora and shortly after is told by Bryant to also retire Rachel, who has disappeared from the Tyrell Corporation. After Deckard spots Rachel in a crowd, he is attacked by Leon, but Rachel kills Leon using Deckard's dropped pistol. The two return to Deckard's apartment, and during an intimate discussion, he promises not to hunt her. As she abruptly tries to leave, Deckard physically restrains her, forcing her to kiss him.
First of all, I want to talk about Zora. And we had mentioned we don't get to know anything about the replicants. Why is she out? She's the only one working. If I had 4 years to live, I sure as hell am not going to be working in a strip club having sex with a snake. Because if you listen to the announcer, he says, watch her take pleasure from the snake that once corrupted men. This is a sex show. She's putting a snake inside of her. Why would a replicant have that job?
Yeah, it makes no sense. I was wondering the same thing. And then you see when he, corners her and then goes off to kill her, the movie does such a shitty job explaining that whole thing that people are left wondering why he's shooting her. Like if you're not watching this movie, again, you've got a pivotal scene here where it's the first time that you're really seeing him hunt down and kill a replicant. And you're wondering, first of all, why? How did he, know? His evidence, like if you want to talk about due process, his evidence is he finds a scale, goes to somebody on the street who says, oh yeah, that's a robot scale. And then he basically tracks to her and she has a snake too. Better shoot her.
Yeah, they ask her multiple times, or I think it was Rachel asks, have you ever shot a human by mistake? He has to have. His evidence is so flimsy. Even when he shoots her in the back, he doesn't go over and check. He's just, yep, it's a replicant. He probably shot 5 or 6 people easily.
Which also brings me to the question of why does he have such an enormous gun? Like the replicants say it looks like 2 normal rounds that went through her and she was down. The gun is like the size of a fucking Cadillac. I expected something huge to happen when he shot it.
Have we ever, I can think of like maybe 2 movies where Harrison Ford has like put on an accent and tried to play a character. The first one is in Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade when he and Dr. What's the blonde German doctor? Anyway, he goes in and he's with the castle. He's like, are we not in the castle? And we have many tapestries. I am here to see. Like he puts on an accent in that movie, and then he does here again in Blade Runner. I always get a smile on my face when Harrison Ford tries to do impersonations.
Yeah, Raj, and I don't get why the hell he was even doing it. This woman's never met him before. Yeah. He has no need to not just talk in his normal voice. And then he goes in and out of it. I'm like, what the fuck is going on?
I want to search for dirty little holes. Dirty little holes. Like, did you feel like he was just fed up that day? And he's like, fuck it, Ridley. I'm gonna do a voice. You want me to act wrinkly? This is what I'm gonna do. Like in his like rough, like he had just like, flew in on a helicopter or some shit like that. But like that's what I love about Harrison Ford is that he's just a cranky old man. He's been this way since he was like 24.
Okay, but you talk about Harrison Ford. He was this was really going into his peak. He was about to do Return of the Jedi. He had just done Indiana Jones. He was a big, major, charismatic star. I think any other actor pulls off that we'll call it that love scene with Rachel in his apartment, you lose me. That was rape.
Yeah, I was about to say he raped Rachel, right? Like that was
any child who saw that was probably like, oh, I don't. Is that what you do when a girl wants to leave? You just slam the door, you physically restrain her, you grab her, and then you tell her, kiss me. Tell me you want it. Tell me you. I was like, oh wow, this is really going to a dark place.
Somebody didn't read the game. You gotta nag him and you gotta nag him and then get into a tickle fight. That's what I do. That's my maneuver. Then show him some magic.
Stop peacocking.
So arriving at Sebastian's apartment, Roy tells Pris the others are dead. Sympathetic to their plight, Sebastian reveals that because of the
Methuselah
syndrome, a genetic premature aging disorder, his life will also be cut short. Sebastian and Roy gain entrance into Tyrell's secure penthouse, where Roy demands more life from his maker. Tyrell tells him that this is impossible. Roy confesses that he has done questionable things, which Tyrell dismisses, praising Roy's advanced design and accomplishments in his short life. Roy kisses Tyrell, then kills him. Sebastian runs for the elevator, followed by Roy, who then rides the elevator down alone. Though not shown, it is implied by Bryant via police radio that Roy also kills Sebastian.
I would like to do a time check for the audience here. At this point in the movie, we are more than an hour into the movie, and I still found myself wondering what the fuck is going on. And I've seen this movie many times. So this is actually an argument against my normal position. I normally complain all the time about shows and movies spoon-feeding us. Please don't spoon-feed me. Let me figure this out myself. In this case, they spoon-fed us at the beginning and the end when we really didn't need it. And then in times where you really need to tell me exactly what the hell is going on, get my buy-in, they totally missed the opportunity. It was horribly done.
God, I love this. I watched it first over the weekend, and I texted Gene, and I said, total, style over substance. And you wrote back something at me like, oh, horse shit. This movie is the greatest. And now to hear you come to my side, it's nice.
Well, I'm going to take a screenshot of this and post it on Twitter because that was my exact note at this particular point in the movie. I said, either this movie is just a mess or I did not fully understand any of what is fucking happening in this fucking movie. Why? Like, I had no idea this was going on. Either I was so bored or this movie just has a terrible narrative.
No, I got completely what was going on, but it's still a shit show. You have the toy maker, Sebastian. He's got his entire apartment that's filled with these misfit toys that he has made to have him, give him company. He is a kind, compassionate guy. He lives alone. He's lonely. Daryl Hannah sneaks in. She gets in pretending that she needs help. He's sympathetic. He lets her in, and then they brutally murder him. He did what they wanted. He helped them. He felt sympathy because his disease shortened his life, much like the replicants. If you want me to have compassion for Roy and his buddies and Leon and Pris, why do you have them butcher this poor young innocent guy?
So the only thing I could think of for that was, again, we're talking about when you look at Roy, when you look at Pris, when you look at Zora, when you look at Leon, you're looking at them as if they're adults, right? They're not. They're 4-year-olds. So you've got a 4-year-old. They're confused. The same reason he kisses Tyrell and then kills him. It's like if you had a 4-year-old who had superhuman powers and was trying to deal with its emotions and figuring the world out, they're fucking out of control.
No, but you got to remember they've been fed an entire backstory. So yes, they are 4 years old in their age and their origin date, but they have been filled with the memories and experiences that make them able to go fight or be a pleasure bot.
Right, but at the same time, look at the way Roy handles, his battle with Deckard. Look at the way he handles Priss's, death. Like, look at the ways they relate in all these ways. You can tell that they're children. That's what they're trying to get across to you, is that the backstory doesn't necessarily work. Also, the backstory really wasn't perfected or enhanced until we get to the Rachel model. These are earlier models. They're not, they have a backstory, but it's not quite sinking in as well as it should be.
God, so it gets even worse. So now the idea that these pleasure bots were actually 4-year-olds. Oh, could you imagine going to a replicant brothel and halfway through the replicant breaks down and starts sobbing and crying? Oh, like a 4-year-old?
Or they put on Teen Titans after you make love to them?
So Bryant is the worst police chief ever. I want to just point this out for a second. So he goes in and presumably, unless he's a replicant, brings in a retired cop, then threatens him, never backs him up. I mean, he is screwed. Like, you've got Deckard on his own all the time in incredibly dangerous situations against really bad odds. And when he does visit in on Deckard the one time in the street, he totally misses that Rachel is standing right there. Rachel, who has vanished, is right on the corner. And then they leave and don't give him any backup as Leon shows up and they do a battle. I don't understand what the hell Bryant is doing in his job.
Well, upon entering Sebastian's apartment, Deckard is ambushed by Priss, but he manages to kill her just as Roy returns. As Roy starts to die, he chases Deckard through the building, ending up on the roof. Deckard tries to jump to an adjacent roof but misses and is left hanging precariously between buildings. Roy makes the jump with ease, and as Deckard's grip loosens, Roy hoists him to the roof, saving him. As Roy's life runs out, he delivers a monologue about how his memories will be lost in time like tears in rain. Roy dies in front of Deckard, who watches silently. Gaff arrives and shouts across at Deckard, "It's too bad she won't live, but then again, who does?" Deckard returns to his apartment and finds the door ajar, but Rachel is safe, asleep in his bed. As they leave, Deckard notices a small tinfoil origami unicorn on the floor, a familiar calling card that brings him back to Gaff's final words. Deckard and Rachel quickly leave the apartment block.
Okay, so we were talking, each of the versions has different levels of narration, where you said the final one doesn't have any. This, I think, was the worst example of it. Maybe 15 minutes before, we hear Gaff say, too bad you won't live, but then how many of us do? And he's making the origami unicorn. I was able to retain that for 15 minutes. So when we see the origami unicorn again, I did not need the redundant voiceover of Gaff re-saying that exact line to have it sink in that the unicorn was his and that he had been there. It just bothered me. It completely... I thought it was they were spoon feeding it to me. Some of the scenes they gave you nothing, and then other ones it was like 7. They just held me down, forced my mouth open. It was just shoving spaghetti in, force feeding me.
One thing I thought was fantastic about this movie is Rutger Hauer in the final minutes of the movie is absolutely brilliant. His portrayal of Roy Batty and the things that he's going through, it's a weird thing to pull off. We're going to have you hunting a man down, also stripping down. You're going to be howling. You're going to be lecturing. And then you got to deliver this monologue while you're like half naked holding a dove in the rain. And he really nailed it. Like he made it believable. It's a tough job to do. That I have seen things monologue is unforgettable. It's one of the best in movies I've ever seen. I don't know where he kept finding these doves, but it was really, really well done.
But God, can you imagine 5 more scenes of that where Roy is discussing the things he's seen and they're going to be lost to time? In that 1 minute, I was more devoted, kind of more bought into Roy and his plight. If you had done that, sprinkled it throughout the movie, you could have been building to this crescendo of a final encounter. They just missed that. I don't get it, because it was there.
I don't understand actually what was going on that entire time. It just reminded me too much of The Shining, and when Jack Nicholson goes bonkers and is cutting through doors with axes, yelling, "Here's Johnny." That's exactly what I took from that the whole Roy scene at the end.
No, Roy has lost all of his friends.
So did Jack Nicholson in The Shining.
They were imaginary. Roy's friends were actually real that
Were
he
they?
escaped from. Yes, they were.
Were they?
So I can understand the fact that Roy is now aware his time is short. and that he's lost everyone and he's going to kind of get his last pound of flesh. But again, we go with Deckard. He's a shitty cop. He's not a hero. He's running away. Half the time, he's just shooting and trying to escape. This is not so much a final stand in battle as it is Roy playing like a cat who has a mouse cornered.
Why does he save Deckard?
So Deckard kind of says it at the end of the movie, but it's really quite clear that, people in their moments of death, it's about what they do in those final moments is really at the core of who they are. I think a part of it is that Roy realizes he's dying. This is the only person that he has had a significant conversation with who he hasn't killed. And so as he's saying that his memories are going to, wash away like tears in rain and all the things he's seen, he needs someone to survive as testament to his life. And so the only person that's left is Deckard. He's dying. He knows it. And he realizes that if he dies without telling Deckard and Deckard dies too, then everything that he's seen, everything that he's, now there's at least someone there to remember him.
Well, listen, and again, I know I just made a joke about Jack Nicholson and the last few moments of The Shining, but didn't this movie also steal outtakes from The Shining for the happy ending?
Yeah, it was part of that problem was when they did the original testing. The audiences were even more lost than we were. So they went back and they forced Harrison to go do the voiceover narration, which you can hear in his delivery. He's pissed off. He doesn't want to be there. There's a level of hostility. And they had to go back and come up with the happy ending that we called it. So instead of going and reshooting, they just went to Kubrick and got that extra scene of Jack Torse and his family driving up to the hotel, straight out of The Shining.
Before we close, there is a difference in the deaths. We noted that Deckard was actually only able to kill in this Zora and Pris, two women who were not combat models, right? A lot of people say that Pris, her method of trying to kill him was kind of stupid, that she jumped up, wrapped her legs around him, and then hit him a couple times and did some flips away. She's not a combat model. So he's also just preying on a model. And that really hurt me as a kid too, because she was at that time like the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. When she paints the eye black and she's all paled out like that was the model for what I wanted a woman to look like for probably, 20 years or something like that. And the way she dies, I also love that effect. Zora dies pretty quietly. Leon dies instantly. And you see that Roy kind of just falls asleep, essentially, after releasing yet another dove. With Pris's death, it is violent. It's a bit shocking, and people have a hard time watching it. And even, I thought that was a great way to go. That decision, whether it was made by the director or by Daryl Hannah, just really, really well done. I love that part.
Okay, so we've all seen, I think, 3 different versions. Yes, I admit it. I was dozing off at the end of it, and I had to go back and rewatch it. I thought I'd fallen asleep and missed where the dove came from. In any of the versions, do we identify the origin of that dove, or did he just kind of pull it out of thin air?
It's like a Prince video. They're just doves appearing, and he's just got... But both times he's got a dove in hand, and so I thought maybe it was an editing thing where, continuity was screwed up because they had him holding it and then not holding it, whatever. But yeah, the dove thing was really bizarre, and I got the symbolism, but it was just really poorly executed.
You're in a dirty, grimy, toxic LA. How is there a white, pristine dove just sitting on the roof? Maybe it was a replicant dove. I don't know. I want to see that in Blade Runner 2049.
Doves are basically rats, right? They're the rats of the skies. So
that's pigeons.
That's a pigeon.
That's a pigeon.
Doves, pigeons, same things, guys. Doves are not necessarily... there are doves that look like pigeons, right? They're rat birds. So yeah, and they cry. So that ends our review of Blade Runner 1982. Guys, are you excited for Blade Runner 2049?
I am. I think that this is a chance to make good. I feel like you cannot in 2017 make a movie like this. This was a movie that is squarely rooted in 1982. Again, this is coming out of the tradition of films in the 70s, like A Clockwork Orange, where again, you had a lot of these scenes where you're like, what the fuck? You're not quite sure what's going on. The 70s were very experimental. I think that bled over into the 80s. Again, why you get these movies like A Clockwork Orange. Again, a lot of the visuals from A Clockwork Orange, a lot of the themes from A Clockwork Orange stick with us. We reference them all the time. But the actual movie itself, not a great movie.
I'm going to say yes because Ryan Gosling is dreamy.
I agree with you on that. Well, the release date is for later this year. It's October 6, 2017. It takes place 30 years after the events of the first film. A new Blade Runner, LAPD Officer K, played by Ryan Gosling, unearths a long-buried secret that has the potential to plunge what's left of society into chaos. K's discovery leads him on a quest to find Rick Deckard, also played once again by Harrison Ford, a former LAPD Blade Runner who's been missing for 30 years. According to reports, Edward James Olmos will also reprise his role as Gaff. I'm with you, Gene. I think they should have just rebooted the entire franchise as a Netflix or Amazon Prime or HBO show and done this over multiple seasons. I feel like Blade Runner 2049 is going to be like the new Total Recall that they tried to make with Colin Farrell. It's going to fail. It's going to Farrell terribly.
Well, I think that they find Deckard at the Jedi Temple.
That's right.
And Ryan Gosling goes up and hands him
the gun, the Cadillac gun, right at the end. I think that's what's going to happen. Well, now's the time of the podcast where we break out the Shat meter and give our score of this particular movie. If you've never listened to the podcast or you're listening and you just forgot what the Shat meter is, it's a 0 to 5 scale. 0 wipes. It's the kind of bathroom activity that will leave you questioning your very existence. Did I even go? Do I exist? Am I even human? Do androids dream of electric sheep? And if they do those electric sheep poop? That's a 0 wipe. 5 wipes, it's the kind of discharge that even though it's incredibly messy and may even drip down the back of your legs, like Blade Runner, it's visually stunning to look at. So with that being said, how many wipes would you give this movie, Big D?
This is a 4 without a doubt. It's not so much a movie as it is, we talked the visual component. If I throw it up on the wall and I can sit and just kind of watch it without paying attention to it, it's not a movie. The art design and the visuals are great, but the storytelling's terrible. All of us fell asleep in it. I think when I was a kid, I probably fell asleep and saw it maybe never in one full showing. So it can't be a great movie. And I know we're going to get a lot of people pissed off. They're going to say, oh, you guys are shitting on the movie just to shit on it. Pull this Blu-ray out of your artisan collection, throw it in, and I want to see you sit through a 2-hour and 20-minute movie in the dark with this music and make it all the way through.
Not only that, I want people to record themselves watching this movie and then put it like on fast motion, like a time lapse. Because I guarantee you, people are just going to continually fall asleep. Like, we're going to get thousands of videos of people falling asleep in time lapse motion.
And here's my final statement of proof. This movie has a 3-hour documentary done about it, which goes in depth explaining everything. A good movie does not need supplemental material to explain its entire plot and what's going on. So for that, it's a 4.
I'll take it a step further. Not only should you do a time-lapse video of yourself watching it, here's what I did, which I do not do this. Okay, so my girlfriend, I tried to get her to watch Pulp Fiction with me. She fell asleep. I tried to get her to Revenge of the Nerds with me. She fell asleep. Then Blade Runner, we're on a flight. We've been drinking all day in California. She manages to stay awake through the whole thing. I felt so guilty. Take a person who's never seen it, tell them it's going to be a great movie, that you love this movie. It's a movie that's going to change their life, and then watch their reaction after 2 hours. I've never felt so guilty in my life.
What's interesting is there's also 7 different versions of that 3-hour documentary that you can watch as well. Gene, how many wipes would you give Blade Runner?
I'm going to be with Big D with a slight bump. I'm going to go 3.5 on this, and here's why.
Ooh.
First, visually amazing. 2, the legacy that this movie left behind, the way it influenced movies that came after it, and the Rutger Hauer scene, again, the Roy Batty scene when he is hunting down Deckard is excellent filmmaking. It's a 10 to 15 minute expanse of a 2.5-hour marathon of a movie, but it's actually really good. If they would have just made a movie called Roy is Chasing Deckard, I would watch that over and over again. It's really good.
Interesting fact, Ridley Scott cast Rutger Hauer without him even auditioning for this film. That's how good Rutger Hauer was and still is to this day. Guys, I'm going to give this 4.5 wipes, mainly for the same reason that Gene just did. It's visually amazing. It's stunning. It still holds up, all the special effects, but it's just a terrible movie, guys. And that's the only thing that's keeping this from a 5-wipe movie is the fact that the visuals are stunning. Harrison Ford is still, despite his complete lack of motivation for being in this movie, it still doesn't do it for me. So with that being said, our law of average, or our average Shat score consensus is a 4-wipe movie. Big D, where does this sit on the Shat scale? What's below it and what's above it?
Okay, what's above it is this is in the bottom. In the bottom, okay. So the worst movie we've done was Highlander, which is 4.5. Then above that is Westworld at 4.1.
Oh,
Blade Runner is now officially in the third spot from the bottom at 4.0. Right above it is The Last Starfighter at 3.8.
All right, so movies about robots that think they're humans are really bad that were made, in the 70s and 80s. As well as Egyptians who think they're Spaniards, also quite terrible, those kind of movies. So that's our official Shat score. Next week's movie choices, what are they, Big D?
Category next week was Best of Nicolas Cage. And you had, again, some great movies. And I don't know if people are punking us. You had The Rock, Face Off, Con Air, and Raising Arizona. And Raising Arizona ran away with it. So next week we'll be doing Raising Arizona.
Big D punking us. Raising Arizona is by far the best movie out of this series. In fact, it is. I've watched it recently. It still makes me laugh out loud. It is a fantastic comedy.
I have not seen Raising Arizona since I saw it in the theaters with my parents back in 1987. So I'm stoked for this because, of course, as everyone knows, Gene and I live in Arizona. So I'm really excited for this.
Yeah, you got Holly Hunter, you got John Goodman, you got Nicolas Cage. This movie is
the Coen brothers.
The Coen brothers. It's so good.
Yeah.
Hold on. The Rock. You have Sean Connery.
The Rock
Nick
is
Cage.
shit.
We have Terrorists. We have Streetcars Defying Gravity. We have VX Nerve Gas. Man, come on.
It's Michael Bay. It's Transformers with James Bond.
Bite your tongue. Transformers is a pile of dog excrement.
Same director, guys. Same director.
Okay, so I'll be honest. I have not seen Raising Arizona in years, so I hope it lives up to what you're saying.
Absolutely. So be on the lookout for that. Be sure to subscribe and download. Gene, do we have any shout-outs this week?
Yes, we do, Raj. There are 3 shout-outs this week. One is Crystal. One is Bodega. And finally...
someone really name their kid Bodega?
Okay, so if you don't know what the shout-outs are, you can go on shatthemovies.com. If you scroll down, you see a little slide out that says if you would like to have your name mentioned on the air, just write your name in here. We'll give you a shout-out. And so Bodega, whether that's their Christian name or not, is Bodega. But someone got really creative, and in that slot wrote, "Where are the puppet movies?" I told Raj, I said, I don't know if there are any puppet movies. Oh, no, I was very wrong on that. Raj made sure that I heard about all the puppet movies from the 80s.
There's so many puppet movies. I can't believe this is not a category. We have to do puppet movies. It's not just the Muppet movies, which one could argue that the Muppets aren't puppets. They're Muppets. They're their own category. But with that being said, there's Labyrinth. There's the Puppet Master movie series. It has the word puppet in it. So there's all kinds of puppet movies. I think we definitely need to do it. And if you have a suggestion on a movie theme, you have 4 movies that you want us to do that have some sort of congruous narrative, please email us, hosts@shatthemovies.com.
Yeah, and I also think we're considering right now opening it up to if you want to commission a movie. Because sometimes people have these really, really, really passionate memories, and we might want to make it possible if you want to commission a cast to actually tell us what you want to do and get yours right to the front of the line and not have to go through the voting process, and give you the ability to submit your experiences with it, your questions, your feedback to kind of get you in the show. So we're tossing that around right now. So if you think it's a good idea, let us know.
So basically, it's like a fast pass, essentially. Like they would buy to the front of the line. Any movie that you want us to do, just pay us to do it, and we'll do it.
Well, I'll give it to you this way: they filmed a one of those B horror movies, the Traumaville movies, when I was a kid at my high school. So I'm actually in the end of Class of Nukem High. When the movie's final scene comes in, I'm there, dead center on camera. I'm probably maybe 8 years old at the time. So if I was a listener, I might commission that movie, because there's no way we're ever going to review Class of Nukem High unless I commission it.
Sounds great. Well, we'll put a link, I guess, on our website, shatthemovies.com.
We're still tossing it around. We'll see what people think.
Got it. Well,
we're not all about chasing the dollars, but got to keep the lights on.
If you wanna get to the front of the line, this is your way to do that. Well, that concludes this week's episode of Shat the Movies. Be sure to follow us on social media and share with a friend. We're everywhere, including Twitter, Snapchat, and Instagram. Just search for @ShatTheMovies. Actually, Snapchat is Shat on TV, but it's the same person. It's Gene Lyons, my boy over there. He runs that. You can also search for us on Facebook. Just search for Shat the Movies Podcasts. We're everywhere fine podcasts can be found, again, including iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, and YouTube. Be sure to subscribe. And if you stop by iTunes, please be sure to leave a 5-star review. That helps the podcast grow. You can also check out our sister podcast, Shat on TV, where we review television series such as Westworld, Taboo, American Gods, and just announced Game of Thrones. Our podcast for Game of Thrones is called On the Throne. You can find all our information there on the website, shatontv.com. On behalf of my two co-hosts, Big D and Gene Lyons, I'm Roger Roper. Be sure to join us next Thursday for our review of Raising Arizona. Thank you so much for listening. We really appreciate it. Good night and good luck.
But it was sweet when they killed Alice, and with the